Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So today our group will present to you about the negotiation skill assignment, which is conflict management strategies in negotiation. So our title is Pedra Branca dispute. This conflict happened between our beloved country, which is Malaysia, and the Singapore. From the slide, we can see the picture of the Pedra Branca Island, or maybe the other name of that is Pulau Batu Putih. So what is Pedra Branca or Pulau Batu Putih? It is an outlying island of Singapore. The name refers to the white bird dropping on the rocks. It has two maritime features nearby, which are Middle Rocks and South Ledge. The island consists of a small outcrop of granite rocks with an area of about 8,560 meters at low tide. Introduction and background of Pedra Branca. The Pedra Branca dispute was a territorial dispute between Singapore and Malaysia over the Pedra Branca, Middle Rocks and South Ledge rocks near the eastern entrance to the Singapore Strait. Malaysia Director of National Mapping produced a map titled Territorial Waters and Continental Shelf Boundaries of Malaysia on December 21, 1979, indicating Pedra Branca to be within the country territorial waters. Singapore denies this claim and requests that the map need to be updated. The conflict of Pedra Branca dispute began in 1979 and was substantially resolved by the International Court of Justice (ICJ) in 2008, when it ruled that Pedra Branca belonged to the Singapore and Middle Rock to the Malaysia. So, the issues were resolved by the ICJ in 2008.
Okay, there are 5 key focus that I have identified. The first key focus is the Pedra Branca Island and the dispute. Pedra Branca or Batu Putih Island is located at between Johor and Singapore. It has been a long conflict between Malaysia and Singapore. The second key focus is the involvement of Internal Court Justice or ICJ. Malaysia and Singapore have decided to refer the case to the ICJ. ICJ task is to handle the conflict between Malaysia and Singapore. The next key focus is Horsberg Lighthouse. Horsberg Lighthouse is located at Pedra Branca Island. It is one of the important points in this case. Another key focus is history. Every nation has its own history that has been inspired and philosophies that make up a nation. The history from both countries has been the point of proof to claim the island. Sovereignty. Sovereignty is critical to maintain a country's independence and dominance to avoid any form of colonization.
Now I will explain about assessment to case settlement, which is Pedra Branca in the dispute. In 21 December 1979, Malaysia released a new map showing the territorial water and boundary. Malaysian statement caused Singapore to raise the issue of the ownership of Pedra Branca in 14 February 1980. Within 1980 to 1990, Malaysia police dispatched boat to claim jurisdiction over Pedra Branca while Singaporean Navy deployed their ship. From the action, we can see that each of the nation was very serious about their claim and sovereign territory. It was the common action taken by any country or nation to send military to control or scout over their territory. But this action or strategy can make the conflict between the nation become worse and make the good relationship between Malaysia and Singapore affected.
History. Before 1979, no statement or proof of a dispute over Pedra Branca was made. To respond to the inquiries from the Singapore government in 1953, Johor State Secretary stated that the state does not claim possession of Pedra Branca because both of the governments were under British administration at that time. In September 1991, Sultan of Johor stated Pedra Branca is belong to them and they are ready to provide evidence if necessary to prove that. Malaysia shows that the Sultan of Johor has the right on the sovereignty of Pedra Branca. Based on the national heritage theory, the Pedra Branca also belongs to the Federation of Malaysia because Consolidation Johor, which forms part of the Federation of Malaya in 1957.
Horsberg Lighthouse. Horsberg Lighthouse is a working lighthouse at the eastern entrance to the Singapore Straits. It is located on the island of Pedra Branca or Batu Putih Island. It is built in 1844. Sultan Johor gave the permission to British to build the lighthouse at the Pedra Branca. The lighthouse was constructed to keep an eye on the safety of ships going through the dangerous eastern side of the Singapore Strait, as well as the threat of pirates. In 1844, the court then turned to the question whether Malaysia still have the sovereignty over Pedra Branca. Malaysia asserted that they still have the sovereignty over Pedra Branca because the lighthouse was constructed on an island over which Johor was sovereign. All acts taken by British authorities and later Singapore officials were just measures taken in usual course of the lighthouse functioning. Singapore argued that certain of the measures are not just concern of lighthouse operation but are in whole or in part as a titre de sovereign. After all the efforts and the money that they spent to build the houseboat lighthouse on the Pedra Branca or Batu Putih Island, they have the rights on the sovereignty on the Pedra Branca.
Sovereignty. In Malaysia's foreign policy, national security refers to defense national sovereignty through various initiatives, such as military development, approaches, diplomacy, and intelligence. The aspect of sovereignty can be seen through Malaysia's involvement in territorial disputes involving neighboring countries, such as Philippines in relations to claim over Sabah, Singapore with ownership over Pedra Branca, and Brunei with the issues of ownership of the districts of Limbang. During the process of obtaining ownership of a territory, all countries provide various justifications for their claims in various forms, such as agreements, effective controls, and historical evidence. This study will highlight the effectiveness of the International Court of Justice (ICJ) as a medium to dispute the resolution regions, particularly in the Southeast Asia region. As a result, the ICJ's role in resolving the disputes over Pedra Branca is quite effective.
Involvement of International Court of Justice (ICJ). To avoid the conflict to become longer, Malaysia and Singapore agreed to refer the dispute to the International Court of Justice (ICJ). In 1990, Malaysia and Singapore exchanged the document regarding their claim, and two round bilateral consultations were held in 1993 and 1994. Then in September 1994, Malaysia and Singapore agreed to submit the dispute over resolution by the ICJ. It will be determined the ownership of Pedra Branca, Middle Rock, and Soft Leash. The ICJ judgment based on several aspects such as treaties, economic, geography, culture, effective control, history, elitism, and ideology. The result from ICJ is Middle Rock belonged to Malaysia while Pedra Branca was granted to Singapore. Involvement of ICJ is a wise step taken by Malaysia and Singapore in order to maintain good relation between the two countries. This issue is referred to ICJ for the decision in accordance with international legal procedure.
Assalamualaikum. This is the reflection part A. So all in all, conflict has a positive and negative result. When it's a positive result, it will have a you will have a good relationship with your other part or counterpart. If it's not, then it will lead a war. So we mentioned two strategy solutions in our assignment. The first one is avoidance strategy. Avoidance strategy is because the both countries have avoided a war and they submit their report and they submit their conflict into the ICJ. The second solution strategy is a compromising strategy solution because both the countries accepted the results of the ICJ.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. I'm here to tell about the important knowledge that we can learn from this Pedra Branca case. So, first is negotiation about Pulau Batu Putih. Take over a period of many years. Singapore being the center of British administration and a few lessons. So the first point is Singapore has been the center of British administration for a long time. So of course they have a various kind of advantage at the center, such as plenty of print media, document, notes, letter of agreement, and old maps. Malaysia also has the historical sites such as National Archive, the Department of History and Museum, but Malaysia faced a building fire that kept the old records. Okay, the next is the negotiation about the Pedra Branca. It takes over a period of many years. This is happened because of several factors, such as the struggle of the negotiator to solve the issue, negotiation skill by those involved, readiness for Singaporean and Malaysian negotiators to tolerate, and the negotiation time given to the two countries before the giving agreement at the ICJ. Finally, there are a few lessons that we can take from this case. Firstly, we need to carefully in doing things. Next, we need to create a strong evidence if we want to claim our right. And Malaysia needs to maintain the sovereignty of Batu Putih and take care of Batu Putih itself without interference from other countries from yearly. Thank you.